I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing with Deputy Mayor Sarah leads us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing all of us together tonight, and thank you for all the wonderful people you have placed in our lives. Let us come together this evening in a united effort so that we can all work to make our community better. Let us listen more than we judge, and let us always treat each other with kindness and respect. Amen. And could everybody remain standing for a moment of silence? I'd like to have a moment of silence for Kathleen Wilkinson. She is the mother of our Brigantine Beach Patrol Senior Lieutenant James Wilkinson, who recently passed. Thank you.
Bless you. God bless. Thank you, Vince. Welcome everybody to our March 6, 2019 here I go with that planning board meeting. I got planning board on my head. Council meeting. We started the meeting at 5 o'clock, went into executive session, where as usual our attorney Fred Cerny will give us an update what we spoke about in the executive session.
Thank you, Mayor. In executive session, the Mayor and Council discussed a series of contract matters. All of these matters that were discussed in executive session regarding contracts are on this evening's agenda. Specifically, ordinance number 4 is the introduction of an amendment to the code provisions that deal with fees for taxi cab owner licenses. Obviously, this matter impacts the contractual relationship between the municipality and purchasers of such licenses. Ordinance number 6. Ordinance number 6 deals with road opening permits and impacts the standards that parties wishing to open municipal roads would have to meet. And in that regard, it is a contract matter, so additional information is available as council considers ordinance number 6. Resolution number 45, tonight's agenda, deals with engineering design for the Ocean Drive West project. Resolution 45 deals with a change order. Resolution 46 also deals with a change order for a construction project, specifically the 2017 road reconstruction program. Ordinance 47 deals with an amendment to a contract that the city entered into in 2014 regarding the operation of the miniature golf course in the city. That original contract extends from 2014 through June of 2019. City Council discussed an extension of that contract until September 15 of 2019. That matter will be further discussed under consideration of Resolution 47. Resolution 53 deals with an award of a contract for certain drainage improvements. And in addition to contracts, Council also discussed certain personnel matters. These personnel matters are also on various action items for this evening. Specifically, Council discussed the municipal salary ordinances and the impact upon employees. That is considered in ordinance number 5 tonight. Council discussed the issuance of a professional service contract to Edward Stinson. That is under Resolution 48 tonight. Additional personnel matters. Council is considering a contract for the current CFO. Council is also considering a contract for the Superintendent of Public Works. These matters will be discussed further this evening as Council considers Resolution 49 and 50. In addition to these contract matters and personnel matters, Council also discussed a contract for the acquisition of property. That is, Council and the City will be purchasing Block 107, Lot 7, Block 103, Lot 7 in the City. We had discussion about that. My office provided information. We are currently in contract for the acquisition of that project with a purchase price of $125,000. Current issues in this matter touch upon the certain wetlands issues that are currently being discussed with the Bureau of Tidelands. Additional information in this matter will be made available by mid-April. It's anticipated the city will be in a position to close at that point in time. Mayor, I believe that covers a rather extensive agenda that we had.
Yes, thank you, Fred. Okay, we need to have approvals for the 2019 February 20th meeting, council meeting, and executive session meeting minutes. Need a first and second on that.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hear none, can I have roll call, please?
View, abstain. Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Did you say Rick?
No, he just got a phone call.
Oh, I'm sorry. It
Oh.
threw me off. I'm used to
Okay.
hearing him, and then I was curious why he was skipped. It was my fault.
Hey.
Okay.
Rick, you want to say yes or no for the minutes of the executive session? Okay, motion carried.
We carried without him. It's okay. Fred, don't we have to put in on the expenses? Don't we have to put a bill in here? Jim, can you tell us what the bill's for so we can add it to our expense?
Thank you, Mayor. As part of the property acquisition that Fred was talking about a minute ago, we have a bill for $3,340 from Bob Bishop. He is our title research specialist that Fred employed, and I asked that we have this added to the bill list so we can cut them in a check.
And the amount was?
$3,340.
How do you want to proceed with this, Fred? You want to put it as an amendment, or?
We didn't vote on that yet, did we?
No.
We didn't vote on it, nothing.
Okay, well, if it is added to the list, when council votes on the bill list, this will automatically be included. So what we're really doing is just putting it on the list now, and then you will take your action.
Okay. So I need a first and second for the bill list.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? See none? Can I have roll call, please?
View, yes. Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
I'd like to open it up to the public for anybody who wants to talk about agenda items only. Please come up and state your name and address and speak on anything on the agenda. Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. 3 items. Number 1, the salary ordinance. When there is an increase in the maximum amount, is that amount then the current salary for that year? In other words, it's not just the maximum, it's the current salary, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
No, Mrs. Phillips, what that allows us to do is if we have employees who are approaching that limit at some point in the near future, this will give us the room without having to reopen the salary cap. If, for example, we have an employee who's due to get a 2% raise, and that will bring them above the 2% salary cap, or the salary cap, this just allows us to do that. Doesn't mean it's happening, but that's the salary they are getting.
Okay, but sometimes it is.
This gives us the
It
flexibility.
just
Yeah.
gives us the flexibility to do that if we need to.
But it never kicks it right up to the...
No.
To the max.
No.
It never
That's
does
not
that.
the intent of it.
Okay, what are the standards for increases? Because as I looked through them, the number and the differences in the percentages, it varies, and I was just wondering how you determine what percentage for that position, and who makes that decision?
Well, our city manager looked it over, and some start at $7 an hour, and as you all know, the new
No, it wasn't hourly, it was in the salaried way. There are
Okay, well,
differences in the
I'll just give you an example.
percentages.
Some of our beach badge inspectors started at $7 an hour, and that's well below our minimum wage allowed in the state of New Jersey, even though the city manager informed me that we actually go by the federal.
Yeah, I noticed that in the list, yeah. Now, I was just interested because there are different percentages in these increases, and I was just wondered how that was determined, what would the percentage was be, and is this also the job of I know the city manager hires and fires, is he the one who makes a final decision concerning any increase in salary?
Well, basically, we make the final decision.
When you vote
His
on...
recommendation, and we discuss it and either vote yes or no on it.
Okay, but there are differences in those percentage increases, and I was curious as to how that's determined.
I'm sorry, but I think another thing too is, as we've been lowering the taxes the last 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
we've figured that into the amount too in the budget so that we can still lower taxes like we've done.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, the second item concerns the position of a conflict engineer. Obviously, you know what conflict means, but in terms of a conflict engineer, is this a usual position in a municipality, and have we had one before?
We never had one before, but we also, other cities have them. Just like we have a conflict prosecutor or we have a conflict judge, we appoint those people when there is a conflict, and this is the reason we did the conflict engineer.
And Mr. Stinson has a full-time position someplace else, but now he's going to do this. How will he handle that?
Well, we believe it's a very limited time that we have a conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and if that doesn't work out, we'll go outside that, the realm and hire somebody else.
Okay, the third item concerns miniature golf, which I think is a very nice asset in this city and has been very well run.
Correct.
I noticed that the lease time began with a 5-year period, and now it's been extended from June to September. I just wonder, I realize it closes probably in September, but why is the lease term, in this case, so much different than the original one?
Because our last term ended in June 25th, which is unusual for a shore town. We should never had a lease term that fell on June or July or August. So we're extending it past that, and then this council will decide either to rebid it outside because his term is up. The original guy has it now, his term's up, we can't extend it any farther. So we have to either decide if we keep it in-house or send it out for another RFP.
Well, my personal opinion is send it out. The person who is running it now and has been running it for a few years has done a wonderful job, and it's a
Yes.
really very enjoyable asset in the community. So I was just curious as to why it was done that way.
That's the only reason. Again, we don't have a problem with the person who's running it or anything like that. We were just trying to give him the best part of the season that then we can make a decision at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was a 5-year contract, that was...
I believe so, Fred.
5-year contract, so that would have been whoever was here in 2014 with the contracts, when it was made that date.
Whatever that means. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close that part of the agenda and move on. Okay, ordinance number 3 of 2019, public hearing and adoption, authorizing exceeding the municipality budget and appropriation. I need a first and second.
I'll make that motion.
Jim, you want to go over what we're doing here? I know Roxanne explained it last time, but there's some people out here that...
The long and the short of it, Mayor, is that this is a cap bank or a reserve, if you will. We're not saying that we need to exceed our budget 2.5% cap or limit, but in the event that we have to, we will have this money out there. If we don't use it, which we don't anticipate having to, Given the current proposed budget, it will go back into a bank.
Okay. Any questions by council? Hearing none, I'm sorry. Anybody from the public have any questions on this, would want to come up and speak at the microphone? Close the public portion. Hearing none from the council. Can I have a roll call, please?
View. Yes. Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, ordinance number 4, 2019, the introductory. Amending chapter 2010 and 210 and 270 of the code pertaining to the issuance of the fees, insurance and fees for taxi cab owner license. First and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Jim, you want to give the public update on this? Where we're going with these, bringing the license down and...
Yes, Mayor.
And
So
fees down.
what we've done with this, after conversation with mayor and council and the taxi cab companies, we've lowered the fee for the taxi cab owner's license, otherwise known as the medallion, from $250 down to $50. We've also halved the number of available medallions for purchase from 12 to 6. We've kept it so that no single owner may have more than 50% of the available medallions that are out there. And this is simply to help out struggling businesses in the face of Uber and Lyft and some of these other ride-sharing platforms. The taxis are really taking it hard, so we're just doing our part to make things a little easier for them. Everything else stays the same.
Any questions from any council persons?
No, but I do have a comment, though.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I really look at is you look at the state of New Jersey. We live in a state where we're very overtaxed and very overfeed. You know, I know one of the things that we've really tried to do here in Brigantine is to control expenses. And you've seen that in the last 4 years, how we've been able to lower taxes. What I'm really glad about is how we're able to start to help small businesses. And I think that's something we need to start to focus here, because a lot of small businesses are being hurt, being pushed out of the state. So anything we can do to help make them successful is definitely a win. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Thank you, Vince. Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, can I have roll call, please?
View. Yes. Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Ordinance number 5 of 2019, the introductory and amendment of the salary ordinance. I need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, as our attorney was talking about, we talked about this in an executive session, and Mrs. Phelps brought up, how do we get to here? And basically, it's just a range that we allow our employees to get paid, and some of them are pushing up against the higher end of it, and we're moving the needle, as you might consider. But can you tell us who we're moving? I know the whole salary ordinance is done. How many people or how many positions?
I could read them off to you, Mayor. There aren't that many. And this is following a meeting with myself, the CFO, and the Director of Personnel to approach this.
That's how you made the decision?
That's how we made the decision.
Okay.
So we have the city clerk, the administrative assistant position, part-time dispatcher, public works superintendent, the supervisor of water and sewer, supervisor of public works, the chief financial officer, the tax and utility collector, the tax assessor, construction official, recreation director, assistant recreation director, recreation supervisor. The four-wheel drive permit inspector we made a significant change to the range there. Director of the beach fee office, supervisor of the beach fee office, assistant bookkeeper of the beach fee office, along with the first through fourth year beach inspectors. Those are the young people that go out and check the beach tags. Different than the permit inspectors, who are actually the ones that sit at the entrances and check everybody's four-wheel drives. We also adjusted the range of the beach patrol officers, the captain, senior lieutenant, the lieutenant/medic, and the lieutenant itself.
That's where our 2% or whatever we negotiate with them are coming up against that
Correct.
higher end of the number.
Yes, sir.
Some of them, like I said, was $7. It's antiquated. You know, we're not going to say anybody work for $7 an hour. We want to be, like Councilman Reardon says, we want to cut taxes, but we also want to make sure people work for a decent living.
Hopefully this will do that, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Ordinance number 6 of 2019, the introduction, amending the Chapter 165, Article 11 of the Code entitled Street Openings. This is street open permits, or is this what we're talking about here, Jim?
Yes, Mayor, the road opening permits. Anytime a utility or a homeowner needs to open the road to do any type of work, this ordinance deals with that.
Okay, can I have a first and second?
Make that motion.
Second. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, just one, and more for the record, for the public, Jim. This ordinance, as I understand it, will basically do two things. It will create a process where if there's a proposal to open a street that's been paved within the past 5 years, one has to show either that there's an emergency necessitating that, or they have to prove that there's a hardship to warrant the issuance of an approval.
That's correct.
And the second part of it is, appears to be an updating and providing for more detailed specs for the reconstruction of streets once opened.
Also correct, sir.
So as two things, and I got them both right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One thing to add too, and one question that came up is, I know there's only a few homes on the island, but if there's new construction where a street opening might be needed to put in utilities, obviously that would be up to the manager, but that would fall under a hardship, and that would be up to his decision, so it's not going to put a halt to, I guess, construction or things like that.
Correct.
Okay. Or housing construction.
Any more comments or concerns? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Ordinance number 7, 2019, an introductory, amending Chapter 105, Article 5, Section 26 of the Code pertaining to the insurance of groups or special event permits. I need a first and second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments on this? Comments or concerns, council?
Just a question. If
Go ahead.
Jim could explain how this would change the existing system for permit issuance?
Yes. Simply put, we pretty much issued anybody a permit that wanted it for a wedding or a party or something like that on any of our beaches. This allows me a little more oversight on some of these events, in particular during the summer months, on our busiest beaches during the daytime. For example, if we don't want to have a party of 100 folks who want to have a wedding at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday at the jetty. That simply just wouldn't work. So this ordinance allows me to have a little more oversight and either deny or approve the permit.
Makes you able to, talk to the people and maybe move it around or whatever
Sure,
it
yeah.
may be.
I spoke with Ryan, my assistant, and she doesn't outright or hasn't outright disapproved any of them. We try and give them alternatives. This will allow me to get into the conversation and explain to them why we don't think it's a good idea and talk about alternatives before we issue an outright denial.
Ryan's not ever going to deny anything.
Probably not.
She's too nice of a girl. Any questions, council? Okay, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution 2019/45, engineer design phase for drainage improvement along Ocean Drive West. Work order change. Have a first and second.
So moved.
Second.
Jim, this is about the asphalt pricing going up?
No, Mayor,
No.
this is the DEP permits for the drainage work that we're
Okay.
going to be doing on Ocean Drive.
Okay.
If I'm correct in understanding this, the reason we have to pay about $9,000 more is because the DEP failed to act? Because it says here, because the New Jersey DEP only issued the permit due to the fact that they had failed to act within the required time frame. So they did not include the Army Corps of Engineers approval and made it a condition of approval.
That is the report that we got from Mazer Engineering. Matt and I, the city engineer and I both shook our heads at this, but
Right.
yes, we're basically paying for somebody else's mistake.
Right, so, and I understand if the DEP doesn't act within a certain amount of time, they can't deny a permit. So since they didn't act, they just pushed it off, and now we have to pay extra money because they didn't do their job.
That
In a timely
sounds
manner.
about right, yes.
Can we send them a bill?
I'd be more than happy to, sir.
Well, we'll take it off the bill that Fred's fighting right now.
There you go. Thanks, Fred.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2019/46, 2017 Road Construction Program Work Change Order. Need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now is this the asphalt one?
Yes, sir. This
Okay.
is the price increase on the
got 'em
asphalt
mixed
is
up there.
about a 2% charge for the entire bill.
Okay,
It works out to be about $11,000.
$11,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Jim, the original change order in this one, which I know we approved, but I've forgotten what was the reason for that one. Do you remember why there was the first change order for about $100,000? Did we expand the scope of the project?
I don't know. I don't even think I was here for that, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, please give me a roll call, please.
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2019/47, amendment to the Miniature Golf Course Lease Agreement. Need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, as we spoke when Mrs. Phillips was up here, this is basically, we're just extending it to middle of September. We're getting $15,000 for it, and then council will talk about over the summertime if we're going to put it out for RFP or if we're going to run it ourselves again. Come up with some ideas, and we should have enough time. And basically, if we do lease it again, we'll do a better lease date on it, and hopefully we'll make it even better. Any other concerns or questions? Hearing none, please let me have a roll call, please.
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 219/48, authorize a professional service agreement with Edward P. Stinson to serve as city conflict engineer. I need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, as we spoke about this earlier, Mr. Stinson will be our conflict engineer. If our city engineer has a conflict with any other engineers or whatever he runs up against, Ed would take over the job from there, and we have an hourly rate from him, and I don't see that happening too much, but we're always prepared. It's not costing the city any money. He does it on an hourly rate as needed. So, any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
I'm going to abstain based on my earlier concerns about why we are structuring our engineering services the way we are instead of bringing somebody in full-time in-house. So I abstain.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2019/49, authorizing a contract for our CFO, Roxanne. I need a first and second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Now, is this as amended?
As amended.
Well, that's, was gonna, you want to take over?
No, just asking the question.
I was gonna get them, I had to get that first and second there. You holler if I don't get the first and second in
I
there.
know,
Now,
and then I
get
wouldn't
the
know if
first and second.
it was
Now you're
introduced
jumping.
as amended, or if we were going to amend. Just want to get the process.
As amended, right, Fred?
As a result of discussion in the executive session, council changed a half a dozen words, plus or minus.
Correct.
So as you are introducing it right now, you are introducing it with the change discussed in executive session,
And was discussed with the employee,
as to both contracts.
yeah, with the Rice letter.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes, as amended, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay,
Doing great work.
thank you. Any questions or concerns by council? Roxanne's been one of our most valuable tool that we have in, I don't mean calling her a tool, but asset that we have in Brigantine government. She's been great. I always say she's the best CFO, and it's actually this contract ties her into Brigantine for the next 4 years, and I think it's a smart way of running this city. So that's my comment on that. Anybody else, please? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Simpson,
Yes.
motion carried.
This next one's going to be a toughie.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. 2019, Resolution 2019/50, authorizing a contract for Superintendent of Public Works, a.k.a. John Doring. I need a first and second, please. As
moved.
amended.
So
As
moved.
amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. City Manager, talk to you?
Yes, sir.
For the amendments in your agreement? Okay.
agreed.
Fine, okay. Anything else, Vince?
No, you're good. Carry on.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Well, I'm not going to call you a tool, but you've been a great asset to the city of Brigantine. Yeah, you are, this guarantees us for the next 4 years you're going to be around. And all the hats we put it all together in here, and you've been an excellent employee, and that's why the city of Brigantine is run so well. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Can I have roll call, please?
View,
As amended, yes.
Lettieri,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
This is still as amended?
Yeah.
John's a valuable implement. Yes.
Reardon,
I don't think a lot of people realize the job that John Doring does. He helps us with numerous issues. Street lights, to flooding, to so many things, so I'll happily vote yes. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Sarah,
I think one of the first things I learned when I got elected to council, the advice someone gave me is that the lifeblood of any community is your public works. And I think the heart of that department is John, and his leadership has been outstanding, and you see that demonstrated through all of his people. And we're very, very fortunate in Brigantine to have such great employees across the board. So, yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 2019, /51, real estate tax refund. Can I have a first and second, please?
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
View? Yes. Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019/52, construction permit refund. Need a first and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
View? Yes. Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2019/53, awarding a contract 2018 miscellaneous drainage improvement concrete repairs. First and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
View? Yes. Lettieri?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we're getting down to our council managers committee discussion. I'd like to just go right down to council. We're starting in the first ward here with Councilwoman View. Do you have anything?
We had a golf course committee meeting on the 15th of February. We had good conversations about what's going on, about the upcoming season. We're looking forward to doing some renovations. There's a new tee box coming in. They're talking about eliminating some sand traps and widening some fairways. Also, they would discuss the ladies' senior tee. Repairs are going to be made to the bridge.
Is Gordy going to play up the ladies' senior tee?
I am. The bridge that crosses over from 8 to 9. And we had a very good meeting and looking forward to a great season this year, the Lynx.
Okay.
I'd also, real quick, I'd like to thank Jimmy Mogan and CER. Jimmy Mogan is our director of athletics, or recreation director. He took us on a fabulous cruise last week. There were 35 people on the trip with us. He leads an amazing trip. He takes care of everyone. There were 5 wheelchair-bound people with us. He is amazing, making sure their luggage gets to where it needs to get. It's like the ultimate class trip. And he is a great leader, great asset to the island.
Okay. Thanks, Karen. Councilman Paul?
Some news for the second ward. They're finally going to do something on that plot of ground where the rod and reel is. Planning board approved tearing down that 3-story quadruplex or whatever it is, and there's going to be 2 side-by-side duplex proposed for that lot. So that's going to start a cleanup, and we're still working on the rod and reel. But it's good news for my neighborhood.
It's a good start, a great start, to tell you the truth. And I know the owner of that property is also getting his permits to go ahead and do the bulkhead all the way across too. And that would save that whole neighborhood down there from flooding, or help stop flooding, but that would be a huge asset to your second ward down.
Like I explained at the planning board meeting, that was one of the first phone calls that I got once I was appointed to the council. People were calling me and saying, what's happening with the rod and reel? What's happening with that ugly building? It's wide open. There's animals running in and out of it. You know, it's just an eyesore. I'm tired of looking at it. So it was good news Wednesday night that they approved the new construction.
Great. Thank you for staying on top of that. Dennis?
As Councilwoman Bue just alluded to, there's always plenty of good trips that we have through CER, so stop in the lobby and check it out. At the desk there's a lot of good literature and whatever you may be able to find online, as well as all the other different classes and activities that we have down at CER. It's a wonderful program. The building itself is wonderful. There's, I mean, it's just such a great asset for our community. Also, beach tags. Beach tags have one on sale, so stop on down and pick them up. You might want to check, I don't know if they've extended their hours. I wish I could tell you right now if they have. They were closed on Mondays, I believe. But phone down there before you stop down if you want to buy your, if you want to pick some stuff up. And also the taxes, since it's tax season now, for AARP is down there and helping people out with their taxes. So if you, any of our seniors out there, whether you know anyone or you're out in our audience, give a call. You have to make an appointment, and they'll help you out with your taxes. Along with the activities that I mentioned, Jim, I think on the pickleball, right, this is some improvements maybe we're looking maybe to make on the tennis courts, right? I think we discussed that, did we?
Yeah, I can let Superintendent Doring complete the explanation, but the long and the short of it is there's going to be a dedicated pickleball court, and there'll be a shared pickleball/tennis court when we get that project underway.
I know we have some pickleball enthusiasts here this evening, and it's really a pretty cool sport. I mean, you look at it, it's like it reminds me of a combination between tennis and, you look down, it's almost like the activity of like life-size ping pong almost, but it's just like a lot of fun, and it's gained a lot of popularity over the past decade or even beyond that. So check it out, all good stuff. Thank you.
Can, John, give us up, is Jim Rotella doing something for a grant for that?
Yes, thank you.
I have a letter here from Senator Chris Brown, you know, backing us up, his support for the pickleball and tennis court reconstruction.
Yeah, we,
Give us an update. I know a lot of people are here for that.
we put in for a grant through Jim Rotella for our recreation complex at 42nd Street, which is only going to be for the tennis court, not the whole complex, but that's the way it's written.
Right.
So we're waiting to hear back from that. We will, I believe we're going to have a public hearing on the grant coming up. And then there also, we put in for in my capital improvement to redo the tennis courts. And then also, if redoing the tennis courts won't happen until the fall, most likely. So what I was authorized to do from the city manager was to go out and talk to a couple contractors about repairing the tennis courts for the upcoming season, which will not include the dedicated pickleball. We'll probably have to use the same pickleball setup as they've been using, but new nets, power washing the courts, filling the cracks, and then recoating where needed. And that'll get us through this year until we can get the authorization to redo the courts, whether it's through the grant or through our capital improvement.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Mary, for bringing that up. I meant to make note of that as well. Senator Brown was quite instrumental. He forwarded a letter with the Green Acres application.
We have a letter here from Senator Brown.
Team leader for DEP. So
we'll stay on top of that.
Every little bit helps.
I know Vince handed me the letter. And we'll stay on top of that and make sure that it's successful, and hopefully we get the thing open by at least the summer of 2020. And but if there is problems down there, if it's a danger to anybody getting hurt, let's make sure we fill those this year, and so they can at least play down there.
I'm hoping to have it completed. Roxanne and I were working on some money today. I'm hoping to have it completed by mid-April.
Okay. Sure there'll be other questions.
Yes, sir.
Richard?
Mayor, I'm going to yield my 45 minutes to Councilman Reardon.
Might not be enough time for him.
Well, yeah, we might
You can
be
get
out of
warmed
time
up.
tonight.
First, I'd like to talk about the way we've cut taxes for the last 4 years.
Well, one more time.
All I have to say is I want to talk about the real positive response we've gotten to our first ever St. Patrick's Day Parade here in Brigantine. That's scheduled for March 16th. It's going to start right here at City Hall at noon, and we're going to march right down Brigantine Ave to Veterans Park. A lot of organizations. It's free for anyone who wants to get involved and have a presence in the parade for local community groups. And also, I invite the tennis group here. If you want to bring your rackets and come on down the avenue, we'd love to have you. So that's it. You know, it's we're looking for, you know, to help the businesses that day, get people here earlier and enjoy some food and different things. Do it in the afternoon. We'll see how it goes. We have 6 Grand Marshals, some well-known local people throughout the years: Phil Gunther, Father Ed from the church, Harry McGarrigle, Sheila Daly, Kitty Williams, and the 6th person, last but not least, is currently the fullback for the New England Patriots, who's owns a house here in Brigantine with his small children, and he's been involved in the community over the last several years with the Rams football players. And I know I've heard nothing but good things about James Devlin, and you know, that's creating some excitement. So that's all I have. Come on out.
I'm curious about why the last guy sat in this chair. Why is he in? It sounds like a German name, Gunther.
Oh, well,
So.
a lot of people don't realize it, but Phil Gunther's mother's maiden name was Mulligan, so that's how he got qualified to be a Grand Marshal of St. Patrick's Day.
So you did some research on him, huh?
Yeah, we did a little
Okay.
research.
Yeah, last Saturday.
That's it.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, Mike, for getting the word out on WOND. I know they were talking about the Atlantic City Parade, but you got the word out there quite nicely about the Brigantine Parade.
Oh.
And you put a lot of information out there,
I'm glad
so
I'm glad
all
you
extended
mentioned
community
that.
knows.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because around 11:30 a.m. on this Saturday, the 9th, a big group of Brigantine people, whoever wants to join in. We're going over to the Atlantic City Parade right on the boardwalk. It starts around the Revel Oceans Resort and Casino, and it goes down past Caesars, and we'll have a float in the parade. The Elks have been doing it for the last, I guess, 15 years. Before that, Curly Circle Tavern did it, and now we're going to continue with the Brigantine presence in the Atlantic City Parade, and everyone's welcome to join in. There'll be music on the float. If you have grandchildren or children, they can sit on the float. That's what's mostly on the float. The weather forecast is very good for Saturday, so it's a real good time. So I will invite everyone to come out for that also. Thanks, Dan.
Vince?
Sure, I have 3 things. At the February 6th council meeting, we did a voice resolution supporting Rebecca Price and the 8th grade students at our Brigantine School for their efforts to protect the environment. They wanted to know if we could formalize that and put it into writing. They want to include it, I guess, in the contest that they're doing, and they want to include it in the packet with for the Philadelphia Zoo. So if there's something we could do maybe for the next meeting.
I don't think that would be a problem, Councilman. We'll get the transcript from the voice resolution that we did to make sure that we capture everything, and we'll have it up for the next meeting.
That'd be great. They're actually really excited and really proud of the work they're doing, so we want to keep making sure we encourage them. Also, I've received a number of questions from people in the community about the work that South Jersey Gas is doing, where they're putting in their gas lines, and a lot of people had concerns, I guess, with damage to property. I spoke with the city manager about this, but if anybody has damage to their property, and it's not resolved, take pictures of it, send a short description. You can email it right to the city manager. We'll keep a record of that. We are holding a bond against South Jersey Gas that we won't release until the work's satisfied. So if anybody has any issues, I know a couple of people talked about sprinkler lines that were hit or ripped up, and South Jersey Gas said that they will fix and repair any damages that they created. So again, you can send an email with pictures and a short description to the city manager. And the last one, this is something I think that all of council should be keeping an eye on. I don't know if you read the paper over the last week, but the Army Corps of Engineers is looking at this multi-billion-dollar project. They say they don't have the funding for it yet, but one of the things they're looking at is, in essence, putting giant floodgates at some of the inlets up and down the East Coast. one of the inlets that they placed was at, they're looking at Absecon Inlet, which is ours. So I've asked our city manager to reach out to the Army Corps to see specifically what they're planning, what their timelines are, and what those designs would look like, because that could have some significant impacts, not just on the south end, but if they plug one inlet, but they don't plug the north end inlet, and all the water comes in, I would have concerns, where does it go? So this is something I think all of us should keep an eye on and find out about.
Vince, I had a very, very brief chat with a representative from the Army Corps. They're not real confident they're ever going to get the funding for it. They're in the very, very, very beginning stages, and the gentleman was not even real happy that it got out into the paper, because it's creating scenarios like this where people are having concern. Basically, he said if everything were to go 100% as planned, no design issues, no funding issues, they would not start construction until sometime in the mid-2030s. Because it is a federally funded and Army Corps project, there would be multiple public hearings with all stakeholders involved, and he already anticipates some resistance, as do they all, from the local governments that will be affected. We talked for a few minutes about exactly what you just said. You know, if you close off the Absecon Inlet, we have a northeaster, the water starts piling in the back bays, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to sit there. If anything, it'll push it back towards Absecon and us. He was well aware of all this. They basically just, from the sounds of it, they basically picked some of the bigger inlets in the state to look at.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like a pipe dream, but sometimes pipe dreams become reality, so I figured it's worth. And I know they had mentioned that they had a meeting in Ventnor last year. I don't know if anybody was notified from the city, but
I went to a meeting from the ACIT school had out there with the DEP, and that's when they were talking about these gates and stuff like that. And
they had somebody they had somebody over in Europe.
Something like Dubai would have, where you build your own islands and stuff
the
like
Netherlands.
That would be.
They're looking. The pipe dream started with, I think, the one that you and I talked about, Vince, over in the Netherlands. I saw totally different land, totally different water flows than what we have here. Theirs is up at the North Sea. They don't have the back bays. I mean, the whole country's underwater, basically below sea level. So that's all things that they haven't even started to look at yet. This is just something that they're talking about. But we should be aware of it.
And as good as our dune structure is, that it withstood Sandy, and it's very good, and its vegetation is beautiful on it and all, it might be a little difficult if they stuck that new wall in there, Seagate.
Well, depending on where they placed it, it would be right at the edge of our jetty, or probably closer in to the cove area. So we would lose the cove, we would lose view along there. It would just...
Time it happens, Vince, you'll be governor. I have no doubt about it.
Thanks for your confidence. I appreciate it.
Any more, Vince?
No, that was it. Thank you.
I have a couple things that came to me. Senator Chris Brown reached out to me yesterday, his office, and what's going on with the railroad, the train problems over there. They convinced that we're going to have a council for the railroads. They're going to have a council for the railroads, and he was looking for somebody to be appointed to that position from our Atlantic County area. And the person has to be a regular rider on the train. So anybody is interested, you have to be a regular rider on the train, and you have to go to Newark once a month for a meeting. So and you'll be appointed by the governor. So if anybody's interested, just let me know, and I'll pass your name on to Senator Chris Brown. I got a couple letters. All council got one letter from one person. I'm not going to mention the victim's name or anything like that, but I will mention some of the firefighters and our police officers. One was a nice card I got from somebody that firefighter Suey and his partner, didn't mention the partner's name, want to give kudos to. They said they were outstanding and really respectful and everything else when they had, I don't know what the incident was about, but they gave me a nice card thanking me for professional services. The other person, I think everybody knows who this is. We have one of the new police officers, Nick Crossan, got on the scene. Outstanding job. And the two Kyles, Kyle Doring and Kyle Fitzgerald, firefighters, EMTs, got there. The victim had 9 stitches had to be put in her face and got her over to the hospital. And the last thing they wrote on the letter, that's why we live in Brigantine. So, outstanding job by everybody in our fire department, EMTs, police department. I don't like this to point out a couple people because everybody does a great job. But these are a couple letters that I've received at my office. Here's a big one that's coming into Brigantine, Atlantic City Electric. John Doring, our city manager, has been involved. June 8th of this year will... Excuse me?
My birthday.
Okay. Karen's birthday, so she might not be there. June 8th, Atlantic City Electric will answer any questions that come in. They're going to redo their power station down underneath the water tower across from the Rams field at, what's it, 42nd Street there?
Yes, sir.
So they're going to be coming in and taking all the old poles down on Brigantine Boulevard going out from 38th Street to the bridge. I know the first thing everybody's going to say, how come we can't do it underground? Well, it's $40 million extra if we go underground. So any questions, concerns, anything like that, they're going to come up, they're going to come from the bridge, go to 38th Street, go down 38th Street to Bayshore Avenue and make a right, and they're going to build a new station underneath the water tower. Any concerns, you guys will have the opportunity to sit down with them on a one-on-one. So that day, June 8th,
Saturday.
it's a Saturday, starts at 11 o'clock, Atlantic City Electric, going to be putting big steel poles up. No more wooden poles coming into our island. So that might be a concern for people. People living out there could be a concern. Come out, talk to these people, voice your opinion, see what they can change. They're in the design stage right now. We sat there, we changed some things, but first thing I wanted is underground. I fought for 2 meetings for underground. They came back with the cost estimate, adds another $40 million to it. And what happens when you get underground, the pipes, the wires get bigger and bigger because of the heat. So my preference would be underground. We even talked about going under St. George's. That's more money. You know, they don't have unlimited funding for this. So any concerns? It's June 8th of this year, Community Center, and they'll be there. Everybody will be there. The environmental people, the technicians, everybody will have tables set up for a one-on-one conversation. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have the latest engineering update from our city engineer.
Okay.
But real quick to follow up with what you just said about Atlantic Electric, there's going to be public letters going out to all the areas that will be affected.
And we'll have it on our website also.
We'll have it on our website, and as it gets closer, we'll start doing media pushes and making sure that we get the word out to the folks. Matt Duran asked me to bring an update to council and the public tonight.
Okay.
We have obviously several projects going on at once. I'll start with the bulkhead replacements. We are complete at 34th Street, 24th Street, 10th Street South, and 8th Street South. The boathouse is about 90, behind the boathouse and the boat ramp is about 90% complete. 12th Street North, they've started on that. They estimate that to be less than 1% at this point. We are working on the pump stations as well, the stormwater pump stations we had mentioned at 34th Street, Hackney Place, and Jenkins Parkway. They have got the piping in at Jenkins Parkway. It's about 95% complete. The pumps are all in order, and the project estimated completion date is June 2019. We also have emergency generators going in for our wells. We're at 75% completion rate with them. They are going out to bid now because we had to change some specs for the generators. So the bid should be coming in late March, and about 7 months after that, it should be completely finished. We also put emergency generators at pump stations. We also included one for City Hall. And, they're going to advertise for the project before it goes out to bid in March, and advertise for all bids in the beginning of April. The East Evans Boulevard project, which is probably the one that affects most of the people in the 1st and 2nd Ward, that has all of East Evans Boulevard, 11th Street North, 12th Street North, all tore up. The directional drill is complete. The pumps and generator controls are on order. There is a below-ground wet well and generator platform. The construction of those has been started, and the installation of the new drainage system at East Evans and 6th Street North, which is right there by the school, is going to start this week. The item from Mazer Consulting that we approved tonight, the permitting for $9,400, we are just waiting for the final permits, which we approved tonight. Golf course ponds. The DEP permit has been submitted to clean out the, yes. And obviously, we're waiting for the DEP to get back to us. City Dock and the 14th Street bulkhead design, that's ongoing. The project should be out for bid by late May. The DEP requested 2 additional items. One was soil sampling completed. Soil sampling needs to be completed for the proposed dredge material at City Dock. Mazer Consulting is going to give us an estimate for that. And on the 14th Street South Drainage Project, the city needs to apply for a tideland license for the existing outfall pipe that is there. Mazer Consulting is also going to take the helm on that for us. The miscellaneous paving that we just completed the final change order for, that is done. The city engineer is going to be going through a final punch list to make sure that everything is finished as it's supposed to be. And the final item is the salt building, which is going to be a public works, take place at the old compactor building. Some of you may remember the project has started. We're waiting delivery of the building, which is going to be a steel building, and the completion of the concrete work. The building is expected to be delivered sometime later this month. And Matt, as always, is available for any questions or follow-up. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Jim. Also, I'll give you a little update that I sat with Jim and the city engineer and also our CFO, and asked them to come up with streets that need paving. And I told Roxanne, our CFO, that we need major paving throughout the city. We're going to go find the money. We're going to either get grants or we're going to use our own money through Roxanne. So we're working on that. So the next few years we'll be doing a lot of work in the city of Brigantine to keep Brigantine moving forward. So that was a little update that we had. Okay, I'm going to ask the public, anybody wants to talk about anything, just come up, name and address, and Marion, I'll get you next time. The lady's coming up, she's the pickleball girl here. Yeah. Or tennis court girl.
Hi, Don.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Deb Schlesinger. My name is Deb Schlesinger. I live at 1006 Bayshore Avenue.
Yep.
can I just, so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Can I just give you these?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know it was, we all didn't know it was going to be Christmas
Thank you.
It should have been green for St. Patty's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, we gotta ask for our Irish guys down here. Reardon.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? So nice to meet you. As a longtime Brigantine resident since 1958, we've enjoyed this island and all that it provides to us. A lot of us were coming here tonight to make a racket, but obviously, it seems like we're getting very
That's
good
pretty
news
funny
about
racket, huh? Yeah, okay.
about the courts on 42nd Street. Those pictures were taken about 3 weeks ago. The courts have been in disrepair, and the city has done a great job trying to patch them and clean them. But you can see that in the last 6 months, I think Mr. Doring would agree, they've just gotten to the point that it's an eyesore for the island to have. There are several hundred tennis players, and maybe this is the best time that we're having this conversation, because over the last several years, pickleball has become a very popular and growing sport. And the pickleball players that are here tonight are really looking for their own dedicated outdoor area. Brigantine is one of the few municipalities that does not offer dedicated outdoor pickleball courts. The tennis players and the pickleball players are working together to make a great racket facility. We would like to have, we hear of the grant that we're looking for. It's interesting tonight, if Mr. Jim Flesh could come up just for 1 second. Jim is the head of the USTA in Delaware. He's been a tennis professional his entire life. This is something that may actually, from a financial perspective, be good news for you to hear.
Did you bring a check, Jim?
Not with me, but I'll get it to you soon.
Okay.
My wife and I live in the Islander, right adjacent to the tennis courts. And one of the things we've done in Delaware, and the USTA Middle States has funding, grant funding for tennis courts. And one of the things that's happening, and you were talking about doing, working with asphalt companies to do your streets, they do tennis courts. So it might be something to think about as you go forward, to maybe work that into a contract that you might be having going forward. The other thing the USTA does is they paint for free of charge when you would redo or make your changes to the tennis courts. They put 60-foot lines on the tennis courts, which are dedicated for junior players to make it easier for them to play. The Pickleball Association is retrofitting their game to play on those 60-foot lines. So there's some joint stuff that can take place that may answer some of the short-term problems that you have. But again, we just did 2 years ago, there was a public-private, there was an 8-court facility that was condemned. People couldn't plan it because the courts were in such disrepair. So the community got together, they partnered with the businesses in the community along with the USTA, and you should see the facility. I'll forward pictures or information to anyone who would like it.
Maybe get John's phone number and stuff like that.
I'll do that. But there, Lori Schwartz, she's the New Jersey tennis representative for the USTA. Thank you. And I'll get her involved. But the Middle States is designated because they're looking to help communities either build new courts or fix the courts they already have. So I just wanted to point that out, Deb. As I was listening to all this, the ideas were coming into my head. So if anything that we can do to help, that would be great.
And if you hear of anything, reach out to John. He's
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Just one more thing.
Okay.
Jim, you're too tall. If we could, there were Kathy Ewing, who is the pickleball liaison, and myself, we are trying to do the best for all of the players involved. There have been other municipalities, Ventnor, who did not include any player input, and then they had problems afterwards. If we could be part of the process, a tennis or and pickleball representative, that might be helpful for the...
As I put in my email to you,
Yes.
that you would be, and pickleball would...
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
And then
That
I have one other thing to ask you. The person just left. When this is all said and done, and I thank you so much this summer for making this a safer environment and filling in the cracks and putting another 2019 Band-Aid before we move ahead with a new facility. But when this happens, a person who has been so important in tennis and pickleball is Coach Lee Mandel. He was in the room, he just left. We as tennis players, and I've talked to some of the pickleball players, because Lee actually brought pickleball to the island. We would love to name the courts the Coach Lee Mandel Tennis Center. He has been on the island for over 35 years. He has brought tennis to thousands of people, teaching the junior program every summer. I'll come back at a later date with funding. We, even as tennis players, would fund the sign ourselves, but I know that we need council approval to do that. I'll do that at a later date. I'm just letting you know that right now. That would be a wonderful plan of ours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And could I just have Kathy Ewing come up for 1 second?
Yes, I'm Kathy Ewing, and I didn't really expect you to be talking so much about pickleball, and that's why I prepared a statement for you. We are delighted to hear you all talking about it, and delighted that you're not saying, what's a pickleball? Pickleball is a sport that's actually been around for 50 years. Lee Mandel introduced it to Brigantine together with Jim Mogan about 7 years ago. We play pickleball 5 days a week, indoors, at the community center. We're looking for outdoor courts for a number of reasons. We're a very diverse group, as you can see. It's not really just an old person's sport. We have people who are 30 years old. We have people who are 80 years old who have all learned to play. The reason we need outdoor courts is many of our younger players do not get a chance to play because we can't play on weekends or holidays. It's nice to have dedicated courts because we don't need to set up nets. We don't need to take things down. We come with our paddle and our ball just like the tennis players do and play. The dedicated courts would compromise some of the tennis court area, but as Deb said, she and I have worked together to kind of reach a compromise. We did present a drawing, and I think Jim Mogan might have shared it with you. That's a drawing that has a potential layout, but we didn't mean it to be the be-all and end-all. As Deb said, it's very important for us to have input into what is designed. As she mentioned, a couple other towns. I included pictures of the pickleball courts in Ocean City, Avalon, Stone Harbor. A couple other towns have converted their courts, but have found that they didn't allow enough room, that Ventnor, for example, they created pickleball courts here and a tennis court here, and never the twain shall meet. And the animosity, believe me, I have felt it firsthand, is great because they don't have any barriers. They didn't make good use of the space they have. I think if we're going to allocate funds, that we should make good use of the resources and the space that we have so that it results in something that both the tennis players and the pickleball players are comfortable with. Again, I can't stress enough that before you make any concrete decisions, you should contact some people who are more conversant in both sports, so they know that we result in something that's usable by both groups. As I said, I have some statistics here too on number of different areas that have outdoor pickleball courts and the number of players. We currently have a mailing list for pickleball alone of 90 people, and we're one of the few, if not only, communities that does not have dedicated outside courts. So I hope that you will continue to talk about this. I hope you will continue to move forward with it. I understand a grant might take a lot of time. And time is something that we've already spent hoping for this. So I hope it can be a fairly quick process. Another thing is that in the meantime, you're going to do a Band-Aid, I understand, for summer with the tennis courts. Last year, some of the pickleball people, with the cooperation of Jim Mogan, who, by the way, has been very cooperative, we taped out lines on the courts. But the pickleball court lines extended into the very rough area of the non-paved tennis court. So it's not really a practical thing. If you're going to do a Band-Aid job this summer, it would not necessarily provide the pickleball people with outdoor courts. So I'm asking if you would consider placing lines within the tennis court, and we could use the tennis net for pickleball by just lowering it a couple inches. It's not ideal, but at least would give us some flexibility and some outdoor play. Pickleball in the community center is only adults only right now. This is a very good family sport. I played it with my children and my grandchildren, and even beat a couple of them. Not all of them, but it is a good community sport. It's a great asset for the city, and I hope that you will continue to talk about it. If you have any questions, my contact information is there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have now or in the future.
I would
Thank
just
you so
like you to stay in touch with John,
Yes,
and you guys can work together,
okay,
and along with Jim Mogan, of course,
yeah.
and we'll just get this thing taken care of.
Oh, and lastly, April is Pickleball Month, and I want to invite all of you to come to the community center and play pickleball with us. Let us know when you're coming. We'll have someone there who can instruct you. We have a very qualified instructor, so let us know when you'd like to come, and we'd love to have you there. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any more about pickleball or tennis?
Can I,
Wait a minute.
I just want to say one thing.
I want to
we-
play you.
We love when you get a group, when there's groups like yourselves that come out. There's almost 24 of you here tonight, and it just shows the passion that you have for pickleball. And there's nothing better than passionate pickle players playing pickleball by the seashore.
Taking pictures.
But, no, we really appreciate it, and I know we'll work together, and we'll get it resolved, and I'm looking forward to playing some pickleball. And, without anything else being said, I'd like to invite you all over tonight to Councilman Haney's house after this meeting. And,
Will refreshments be served? Okay.
Ball and Guinness goes together well.
Marion. That's now, since we have the pickleball issue put aside.
I don't know how many, I'm Marion Godinsky, and I live on 21st Street. I am a veteran, former Air Force Flight Nurse, medical crew director, and currently a member on the T.B. Maguire Foundation. If you looked at the Beachcomber on Friday, you saw some information that was sad on the veteran death and what the VA was looking at doing about it. President Trump signed a paper on Monday making a law available that we would try and stop the suicide deaths of veterans. The average, we have 22 veterans who die every day, and that's in the United States. South Jersey has 131 veterans. The majority of the veterans who are committing suicide are 61 years old, and they're Vietnam veterans. And many others are younger with PTSD. New Jersey's had some things going for them. One is a vet-to-vet card, and I'll pass it down. It's literally
There's a Michael.
suicide calls.
Thanks.
When I go to the meetings, I go to the stand-downs. There aren't any more in New Jersey. We can't get them passed down.
Talk into the mic so everybody can hear you at home.
We try to get these passed down.
Thank you.
Let you look at them. This is the
Where's she
place
going?
we use. A veteran feels suicidal and wants to make a call, and we don't have any more of those. And when I went to the VA in Northfield, they didn't have any. And what we're seeing are people who are older and younger, and it's interesting how many of them are coming over to Brigantine because people are giving veterans one-way tickets to Atlantic City, and they're coming and they have no place to stay. MPRONT has been formed. We have meetings once a year for veterans to come in and look at things in Atlantic City. The best one I have gone to is Cherry Hill, where you can do everything that you want in a day medically and do all kinds of things, but somehow it just doesn't last. We need to begin to look at why we are having veterans die, 22 a day, and what it is we need to do about it. As I said, the President signed the bill, but we have a lot of veterans in South Jersey, and we need to really get people together. We have good groups in Brigantine with the Elks. We have the VFW and the American Legion, but there are a lot of issues that come out when you go and you meet with them for different kinds of things. So I don't know that we can change the world, but we certainly can look at the things that the President has written and that the VA needs to do, and what can happen. You may know that the veterans have, most of them are supposed to be getting what are called choice cards, and they can go locally to a facility for a medical or a behavioral health problem without going to the VA, but that's not working for everybody everywhere. And New Jersey has had some arrangements with Rutgers and other people with that suicide card. When I've gone to the last 3 meetings, and I escort people, and I consider the Cherry Hill stand down one of the best in the country for the way they handle it. There aren't any more. People come in, and the people from the state don't have any more of those cards. So we need to get people together to be aware of what's going on in South Jersey, to keep an eye on what's going on with the VA, and see if there's something we can do to stop veterans from the suicide issues that there are in the country as a whole and in South Jersey as a part. And I am willing to work with people. I work with them now, but it certainly is difficult when you think that somebody has to pour gasoline on himself on Saturday morning because his wife went into the VA on Friday and couldn't get anything done, and he literally burned himself to death with gasoline. So we need to really look at the number of veterans that we have in New Jersey and what we can do to help them better than we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know, as one of we had a lawsuit on affordable housing, and some of our settlement, we pushed towards veteran homes for people in Brigantine. We're still working on that. We're hoping to build a new building for the veterans, for five apartments or 5 condos or whatever the case may be, but at least a family of 5, 5 families we were gonna help out on that part of the lawsuit of our affordable housing commitment we had to do. You won't find any more people dedicated to veterans or sympathetic to veterans than these people up here. Our council and our city is veteran friendly, and we have a veteran on here right now. I know my father was a veteran, and Councilwoman Bew, father, and when we do have the Veteran Days things, I know me and her both get choked up talking about our fathers. So we're a very veteran-friendly community, and this council backs the veterans 100%. I believe, this is just my belief, that no veteran we shouldn't even have the VA. They should go any place in the world, show them they were a veteran, and we should pay for it as Americans. That's what I believe in. Paul,
Yeah, I'd like to say
you're a
something.
vet.
As a veteran myself, I'm also the vice president of the Legion Riders out of Summers Point, a motorcycle group. It's a veteran support organization, and we do a lot to help local veterans. We raise money and dole it out pretty generously. I'd like to give you my card, so you would stay in touch with me, and anything that I can do, or through my organization that we could help out with, we certainly would. Were you aware that they just opened a center yesterday in Northfield, a new access center?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't there because I had another commitment, but a few of the fellows went and said that it was very encouraging, some of the things they had to say, and the programs that would be available. And I know that a local fellow, Carney, he does an awful lot with suicide prevention amongst veterans, and I can get you in touch with him also, and I'm sure that...
I have been to them. I have spent 7 years of my life between Penn and the VA in Philadelphia. And it is exceedingly difficult, and I have been down there where they are in Northfield, and listening and doing things. It's a different world. It doesn't happen, and
Our biggest problem is...
they don't want to hear it, and they don't want to see it.
Well, that's not true. I mean,
That's what I see.
I have a fellow down there you can contact, Steve Walicki. Okay, he handles a lot of these cases. He's a personal friend of mine. If you go down there and talk to him, I'm sure he'll point you in the right direction. The other thing is, the problem here is the veterans who want medical help have to go to Delaware for it. And that's why we were pushing for these choice cards, so that local veterans can attend any hospital they want. And the hospitals came out in support of it. They said, sure, we would be very happy to have them, come to our facilities, and we would treat them however they needed to be treated. The problem is that the government is very slow to act on this.
Yes.
And that's where the problem is, really. It's not because the help isn't there or it isn't offered. It's the government that holds it up. And I know, friends of mine, I don't use them myself, but in order to get service, they have to go to Delaware. Some of them are using Philadelphia addresses and going to Philadelphia, but, there's nothing really local close by.
The buses come in. The buses come in geographically, and they're in Atlantic City, and they're in Summers Point, and I have made it a point to go down to some of the buses when they come in, because a veteran literally could go in off the street, or some of them are seen, but there are many issues with the buses and the people who are there. They're in front of the court every Tuesday mornings, once a month, in Atlantic City. There's a lot of issues with the VA, but there's also a lot of issues with the veterans' problems, and I think we'll have to see what happens with his signing of the paper. But there are many, many issues that are there, and it speaks for itself. 22 a day.
I've heard that statistic, yes.
And it is a tragedy that we live in the country that we live, and our veterans are killing themselves at the rate of 22 a day. It's unacceptable. And the choice cards are good for some things, but they're not good for everything. And that card I passed around, there aren't any more of those. That when I got them through New Jersey, through one of the schools, and they're not available now. And when I go to the stand-downs, and I consider Cherry Hill having one of the best stand-downs. I've been going for many, many years when they have their stand-down day, and those cards weren't available.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay,
Mayor, Yeah, I just wanted to say, could we, this is all like excellent input, and it's excellent that you brought this to our attention this evening. Could we get that, Jim, maybe just forward that to you, if we could just have our police and fire, just have that number, just filed in the appropriate place?
They do.
They have it already? These specific numbers? Okay.
Yeah, I met with Ms. Kudinski some time ago, both before I was the chief and when I was the chief.
Okay, so
And
you...
a lot of these VA and the vet resource numbers.
Okay, excellent. Just want to make sure we had that, because I know you've been in law enforcement all those years, and myself, and I've been to numerous suicides, attempted suicides, and ones where I actually met them, attempted suicides, and then they did the deed afterwards as well, and it's very tragic to be with the families. It's very emotional, obviously.
I think it's I'm a veteran as well.
Yeah, Jim's a vet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I had his second cousin was in Nam also, and he kind of wasn't right when he came home. He was from I didn't see him all that often. He was from the New York City area, but he was over at my house enough when I was younger. So he's doing quite fine now, to the best of my knowledge. But okay,
Okay,
that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a subject that we could sit here and talk for days and hours and stuff like that, and it's a crying shame, and you know, again, our heart goes out to every veteran that fought for this country. Anybody else who wants to come and speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jill Denyas. I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm with the Philadelphia Outrigger Canoe Club. I feel a little bit disrespectful going after discussion of veteran suicide, but we had submitted an application to the council a while ago for a permit for outrigger canoe race that we hold out of Brigantine Inlet Beach. And we've been doing that since 2005, and the council has approved our application for each year since 2005. Thank you. It's a great event. People that come to it love it. Outrigger canoeing community in the East Coast is not so big as it is out on the West Coast or in Hawaii, but it's growing, and the people that come to this race in the wider association say that it's like one of their favorite races to come to, and I really think that it's because of the beach that you guys have, the setting that you have. We used to launch from the Atlantic City side from the Captain Starnes location, and when we moved over to Brigantine, it was a completely different vibe, and people really loved it. The first year we had about 50 participants in the race, and last year we had in the OC6 race about 216 people. So thank you for that, and we really enjoyed the Brigantine location. In our permit application for this year, we had requested permission to allow trailers and the vehicles pulling the trailers to remain on the beach, and we didn't show up for the council discussion on that matter, and I thought that maybe the council could have benefited from us being here to ask us questions. The reason for the request is that with the event growing, well, previously what the city had approved was us dropping off the trailers and the boats, or dropping off the boats at the beach, allowed non-permitted vehicles onto the beach just for the purpose of dropping off the boats, and then allowed them to drive off the beach to the community center at 17th Street. Is that right, John?
42nd Street.
42nd Street. And so the trailers would stay at 42nd Street, the cars would stay wherever, and then after the race was over at about like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, they'd all get rides back to wherever go back to the trailers, come back onto the beach, put the boats back on, and then go home. That worked the first year. It worked a little bit less good the second year when we had more participants, and then this past year, there was the showing of Jaws at the Cove on the same day that we had our race, and so there was a lot of competing, activity on the beach, and so we were prevented from bringing anything onto the beach except for permitted vehicles, and it was really difficult for us as far as like race logistics, and so we're accepting the council's no. We want to work with the city. We want you guys to be happy with us. because we want to keep on having our race here. And this year, because we can't, we've got the condition from the council, we're looking at maybe, moving it to Atlantic City again this year, but I wanted to come down and see if maybe the council and maybe John could work with us to come up with a solution that would work better and work for you guys and not interfere with whatever you have going on the beach, but give us like a little bit of room to make the race work better.
What's the dates?
This year we had applied for August 10th and, or 11th and 10th and 11th.
10th and 11th, yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a conflict with any Joel's on the beach or anything like that?
No, Mayor. As Joel has said, we've had a good relationship with the Canoe Club, having the races there. We've worked well together.
Right.
And we had a little glitch last year, and I think Joel will agree with me. We had allowed some support vehicles down on the beach, but they had to register with the police department. I believe the year before we had like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Last year we had a little glitch and we didn't get that, so we did not allow them down there because it was a late Friday and we just couldn't get the permits out of the police department. I believe what Joe is looking for out of this meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, is to park the race vehicles that tow the trailers, including the trailers, on the beach. And on a...
Have we ever done that before?
No, sir. Previous to our new city manager, we had met with Beach Tag and Captain of the Beach Patrol, and they were totally against allowing them to park trailers on the beach. A, because of how soft the sand is, and it gets so crowded down there. And as Joe also said, the race is getting bigger and bigger. So the first year we had like 15 boats down there. Last year, how many did you have in the race?
I have the statistics.
And it's 1 or 2 boats per trailer. Some of them have 2.
Yeah, this past year we had, I know it looks like a lot, but we just had 7 trailers. We had 15 boats total. I have brought a little visual aid, if I may hand you guys something. I had somebody who's better at doing stuff on the computer make a graphic that shows the boats and trailers to scale on the beach, and like maybe a proposed
I think what's going to be the best part is getting our chief of police, our chief of on the lifeguards, and have a meeting, and of course with the city manager.
Yeah, but if you got a picture,
I did see the video that was sent. Looks like, yeah.
And let's get a meeting together and see if we can come up with a solution.
Okay.
Quickly as possible, and
Yeah.
maybe the next council meeting we can do something about it.
Okay.
Either yay or nay, or at least you know where you're headed.
Yeah, I just felt like maybe we asked the wrong question, and maybe it would be beneficial for me to be here if anybody had any questions about
Well,
it.
we don't have the chief here.
Oh,
of fire
is
and
that Kip?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had another event tonight, but I just don't want you to leave. I'd like you to see if we can work something out, and see what their concerns are, and see if we can, take care of the concerns. If we can't take care of them,
We'll get out and we'll take our boats and go. But we did want to maintain a good relationship, and even if we don't, hold the race here anymore, I just wanted to really address the council and say thank you, because it's
and
awesome.
I just think us talking, and I don't want to override the concerns of the chief
Certainly.
and the beach patrol at that time. If we can come up with a remedy to the problem, let's do it. Let's all work together.
All right.
If we can't,
So that's another meeting, John.
Hey, so you think there'll be more than what you have here on the...
Possibly. I mean, like I said, it's growing. I think that this year there's going to be a little bit of a contraction. There's like a race competing with ours for paddlers' attention that I think is going to draw some paddlers away. So I would say like probably maybe about the same amount of trailers, maybe a few less boats. I mean, it's limited by the fact that, like, people aren't going to trailer from other, like, states that are very far away, so usually who shows up with their canoes are the local clubs, the clubs from D.C., clubs from New York, clubs from Connecticut, and they lend their boats to other, like, visiting teams. And we got teams coming from all over the place. I mean, we had people come from Chicago, we had people come from Brazil. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool collection of folks.
John, can you handle setting up a meeting with her and
I've met
clear it
with
through
Jill since they've come to Brigantine. I've worked with them, and we'll continue to work together.
we'll set it up with Jim and, and we'll
Yes.
get the police chief there and,
Okay,
and work it out.
great.
Is this the area
That
east of the, like toward the jetty from where you're
Correct.
not allowed to drive?
where the lifeguard
Right.
stand is
Right.
now, you keep going west, and the pictures that I handed you are from 2 years ago. And it just shows you, their area, and in the back, you can see where they set their
Right.
tents up and their support. We tried not to keep them right at the water's edge, because everybody knows how crowded it gets down at the
Right.
boat.
That's where I'm going.
Right, and we
Yeah,
get that
they
those
did.
are the paid tag holders, or the permit holders, who,
Right.
like, who want the prime area of the waterfront. So we try to keep all of our stuff, like, back kind of like towards the dunes. We do have to access the water at some point to get there.
Right.
But, we're willing to minimize that area. I mean, we realize we can't exclude people from the area, but we do try and sort of encourage people away when we're launching and when we're docking for their safety. But it's generally up by the lifeguard area. I mean, we're willing to move if John thinks that it would be better if we went around the corner.
It's a 2-day event.
Two-day event.
Yeah,
And
it's grown from.
It's a good event.
Sounds like it.
But the only issue is, and tell me if I'm wrong, we're looking at 15 trailers backed up to the dunes. And we all know how crowded it gets down there.
Sure.
And that was one of the reasons that we
Yeah.
decided that we would continue putting them we don't want them in the neighborhoods. We put them at the lot, at the community center.
They're not beautiful. They're trailers. But it is, I don't think it's going to be more than 7 trailers, like possibly like 1 or 2 more than that if the event gets at capacity, which I understand is still a lot for you guys, and the beach is prime location, so I understand that. But if we could even come up with some kind of compromise where the cars could come on, then the cars have to go off, even if they don't. Because if we're asking people to buy like a seasonal permit for just a one-day event, it's kind of not fair for the participants, or our club has to absorb the costs, which makes it.
Well, what we did in the past, Jill, was you gave me the license plate numbers
Yes.
of 4 or 5 vehicles that we allowed the daily permits for, but last year that fell through the cracks. We didn't get them until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on a Friday, and I could not get the passes.
Okay.
That's what
I blame
happened.
Dave.
You
Okay.
blamed Dave, correct.
Let's set up a meeting.
Okay.
Set up a meeting with John, and then
Okay.
We'll get
and then we'll
city manager.
bring their recommendation back to council, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank
Okay?
you very much.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you, Jill.
Anybody else from the public would like to speak? Mrs. Phillips, you're killing me. You're not coming up.
She's got her earmuffs.
You're ready to go, aren't you? Well, since everybody's putting their hats on, any more comments from the council? Seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for tonight. Our next meeting is on the 20th, March 20th, correct? Yes. 14 days from today. And good night, Brigantine. I'll talk to you soon.
I see you guys ready. Take care, John. Take care.